Today, let's talk about one of the biggest problems that new Pro Tools users have. That's your I/O settings. If your inputs are wrong, nothing works. If your outputs are wrong, you're not going to hear anything. If your buses are a mess, mixing is going to be no fun at all. So let's fix it. Let me show you how to set up your I/O. Let me show you how to export and import so that you can reset your I/O anytime that you're ready. Hey, if we haven't met, my name is Donnie Baker, a Grammy-winning studio owner and engineer at ES Audio Services in Los Angeles. Also, B-Side Studios, my private mix room. Let me show you around the input-output a little bit, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about how to fix things. This is your I/O window. In Pro Tools, you can get to that by going to Setup and I/O. What does the I/O really mean? Inputs, outputs, buses, inserts, it's the routing map for your entire session. If any of this is wrong, your session is wrong. No amount of plugins are going to save you. Every interface has different I/O names. That's kind of why this gets messed up. So let's start here at the Inputs tab. These inputs are not my inputs. Sometimes clients come in with a session already on their hard drive that they worked on at another studio. That I/O is going to be different than my I/O, my input-output. When they open their session, if they don't remove the old I/O and set up my I/O, it's just going to stack on top. So a lot of times the stacking can just get out of hand, and then you end up with things that don't belong to you, and your routing gets all screwed up, and you're not sure where everything goes. Today I want to share with you how we can set things up, and once we get it set up, we're going to export our settings, give it a great name, then we can always import our settings back into a fresh session when we need to. We can actually go in here and rename these things. Okay, Audio 1 and 2. If you want, you can just name this PT1-2. And then what should happen is the stereo becomes the mono, the first one, the left, becomes Pro Tools 1, and the right becomes Pro Tools 2. Now this is the way that I've done mine. So I can go in and go Pro Tools 3-4, PT 5-6, and so on and so on and so on. Now you can see that it's Pro Tools 3, Pro Tools 5. When we do go into Pro Tools and we might look at an input, that input is going to be Pro Tools 1 and 2, PT 3 and 4, PT 5 and 6. If it was a mono channel, if we create a mono channel, and we can see that the input is PT1, PT2, and these are the names that we've given things. So this is why it's important to have these things. That's why it's important to name your I/O. So another thing that you could do, you could go in and name all your paths if you like. You can delete all the paths and just hit default. Another way to clear everything is just to grab everything, delete all the paths. It's going to tell you that it's being used, and if you delete it, it's not going to be there anymore. And then just hit default. Okay, and you can see the default names I have are mic line inputs, mic inputs, mic line inputs. Now, I do use an Apollo, and I'm not using any of these, so I could actually get rid of these. I'm not using any of these. All I'm using for inputs here in this studio is the 8 coming in, and then I also use Pro Tools 23 and 24 for my print tracks. I could actually name this print because that's exactly what it does, and it gives me print left and print right. So I could rename this PT1-2, PT 3-4, PT 5-6, and finally PT 7-8. So these are all my inputs that I have on this system. Now my outputs, okay, you can see that all these are wrong. So all I got to do is select all these. I can delete all the paths, just hit default, and now all of my outputs come up. The output tabs is where Pro Tools plays back. So you can just show the default tabs. If you don't hear sound, that's usually the problem, is that your outputs are wrong. So you can go in here and check the defaults just by hitting the defaults, and I can see that I'm not using any of these, so I can actually delete these. What I'm doing is I'm setting it up so that we can export. So once you get these named the way that you want them to, all of mine go to a console. I have a console. So 1 and 2 goes to channels 1 and 2 on my console. 3 and 4 go to channel 3 and 4 on my console, etc. For beginners, let's just keep it super simple. One main stereo output. If you don't have multiple outputs, there's really no reason to have all these there. You can just show 1 and 2, and that's all you need. If all you have is an Apollo Twin, for instance, or a Focusrite 2i2, you're only going to have 2 outputs. Okay, so just get rid of the rest of them. You don't even need to see them. Just select them all and hit delete path. Okay, so let's go on to the bus tab. Now this is where most beginners get stuck, is in the bus tab. You can see that I've got a lot of buses that are labeled wrong, and this is because they've been stacked on top of stacked. Here's a 5.1 surround. Where did that come from? I don't even know. So the easiest thing to do is to select all of them, and I just did that by selecting one and then hitting Command A, which selects everything, and I'm going to delete the paths. Now, the session that I have open is telling me that I have those, I'm using some of those, but I'll delete them anyway. And then just hit default, and it should just give you your default paths. Again, I'm busing my outputs. 1 and 2 are bus to console input 1 and 2. Console, what I've labeled console 3 and 4 is going to console 3 and 4. These are buses. Okay, these are output buses, physical output buses from my interface to the input on my console. Now, these are the internal buses inside of Pro Tools. These are not named, although I could name them if I want to. I can name them, let's name this one Reverb Bus. We'll name this one Delay Bus. This one we can call it Parallel Comp, or P-Comp for short, whatever you want to call it. However you want to label your buses, that's entirely up to you. If your templates aren't working with your effect sends, it's probably your buses. Again, it's best as a beginner to keep things super simple. Don't go get crazy with all the names and make them really long and everything. Just call it Verb 1, Short Delay, Drum Bus, Mix Bus, etc. Here's what we can also do. Once you get all your names right and everything's working just the way you like it, and you've checked it on a session and everything's working just the way you need it to, what you can do is go down here to Export Settings. Give it a cool name like Cool Name, and this is going to put it in your folder that you have set up in your Pro Tools department where it keeps your I/O settings. It's actually under your documents on a Mac. I'm not really sure where it keeps it on a PC. So let's give it a cool name and let's save it as a cool name. Let's say now that you come into another session and everything's all screwed up again. You've got paths that don't belong there. You've got stuff that doesn't belong. Okay, you got a bunch of stuff that doesn't need to be there. All right, I'm just going to import some stuff from. Let's import some stuff from this one. I'm not gonna remove everything. I'm just gonna put it on top, and then this way everything gets all screwed up. You see how it says it's not available? It's not available. What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna go to each tab, and I'm gonna select everything. Command A, delete. Go to the next tab, the output tab. Command A, delete. Go to the bus tab, select one, Command A, delete path. And now I'm going to import settings. Down here, make sure that you have apply to all tabs selected so that it does the input, the output, and the bus all at the same time. So let's go import settings, and let's go from our cool name, and it should just open. And now, voila, we are all back to where we started. Okay, so it is that simple to get everything exported and imported and back in. So one of the coolest things to do is to check your out-of-date templates. So like if you open a template and you notice that your I/O is a little out of date, fix it and then save it back as a template. So next time you open that template, it's going to be, your I/O is going to be set up just the way that you need it, okay? What if you go to another studio and you open a template and you're on a different interface? This happens a lot with us, okay? Other producers come here, other engineers come here, and they bring their own templates. And what they might do is change my I/O to match their settings. So I don't know what they've named. They've named their bus 7 and 8 something weird. Maybe even a path that I don't have access to, like a special plugin that they have or whatever. Okay, so that changes my I/O because they overwrote my I/O. So it makes sense for me to go check my I/O before I start a session. So before I start a session, I always check my I/O and make sure it's my input outputs. Okay, so that's the thing, man. If you get an old session from someone else that was recorded at another studio, it's not going to be your I/O, and it's going to make mixing kind of difficult if you're trying to, keep track of all your I/O. So the easiest thing to do is to get your I/O where you want it, and then export it and save it in a place. Save it where in your I/O settings as a name that you understand that's your base. That's where you start. This should make your life really, really easy. Now, if you want to get deeper, you can go in there and start naming your buses the way that you want them to be just for you, okay? But understand that that's just for you. If somebody else comes in and sees that, they're not going to know what it is. So as a commercial studio, we have to keep ours pretty generic so that people understand, other people that come in understand what our I/O is doing and exactly what it means. If this has been helpful for you at all, please consider liking and subscribing this video. We drop a new video like this every Monday morning at 10 a.m. Hey, if you're new to Pro Tools, you want to dive a little deeper, I'm hosting a free workshop coming up pretty soon. So I'll leave a link to it down in the description. Man, it's going to be live, it's going to be free, and it's going to be simple. So we'll see you next time. Hey, if you want some files to mix on, I'll leave a link to it right here in the corner for you. So go grab that, enjoy mixing, and we'll see you next time. Donnie B, I'm out.